Well, this is Gdansk Airport in Poland, and this one's going to be a real adventure because normally when we come on these trips, we pretty much know what we're in for. But this time around, neither me nor any of the boys in the crew have been to Poland before, so we haven't got a clue. We think we're here to fish for pike. We're told that the lake we're going to has got some big carp in it as well, so we're just going to busk it. But I'll tell you what, this is really quite exciting. I'm looking forward to the trip. I took a regular flight from the UK, and then all there was between me and the lake was a 2.5-hour drive. There are over 38 million people who live in Poland, and a quarter of its territory is forest, populated by hare, deer and wild boar. The tourist season runs from May to September, and the country enjoys warm summers. Well, here we are. We've driven about 90 kilometres from Gdansk Airport, and we're in a part of Poland called Pomerania. This village, I think, Tom, is called Unihovo.
Unihovo.
And there's a lake here, which we've had a look at, and it looks really, really nice. Now, Tom's going to be our guide for the next few days, and by sheer coincidence, we've had a real spot of good luck here. He's absolutely crazy about fly fishing for pike. So what I thought would be a good idea was to ask Tom a little bit about the lake, but also about this pike fly fishing technique, and maybe even see Tom tying a fly for us. Tom, just tell me, first of all, a little bit about the lake.
Well, you know, in Poland we have lots of beautiful lakes, but unfortunately they are empty without fish. People like to catch them and eat them. I decided to take this lake and to stock the fish here and to do the fishery.
And how successful has that been, Tom?
It's okay because people are catching them. You stock a very small one, but also the big ones. And right now it's not problem to have a few fish a day. It's normal.
Okay, so
6,
the fishing's getting better. And you've also established a catch and release policy, is that right? Which must be very unusual in Poland.
That's right. You know, people know that, but they don't accept it. Right now, there are only 3 or 4 lakes in Poland with the same rules. It's not so popular.
So now, Tom, you've got your own lake, you've got a catch and release policy, you've got good pike fishing. You've even invented some of your own flies. Now, you've got one here. What do you call this fly?
Carpet fly. Carpet fly because of the material.
A strip of carpet almost,
yeah. That's right. It's very effective. Great in the water, great movement.
Lovely action.
Yeah, lovely action, that's right. You will be hooked also.
Okay.
So, if you want, I can show you that.
Yeah, it'd be great if you will. Okay, so you're going to lay down a foundation of thread. I notice you've got to size 4/0, is it?
4/0, 5/0, the big one.
Yeah. So here's the carpet material.
It's very simple.
So you tie that in now just above the bend. You know, I noticed that the fibres lie on one side because you want them all to face backwards.
That's right.
To create the streamer effect. Now this is creating the body of the fly.
Now we'll add some flesh.
You use a lot of flash or a small amount?
No, small.
Now you're working towards the head. You're stopping the white a little bit short of the eye.
We'll add some different color.
Probably, what, just a couple of turns of the red?
That's okay, we can cut it off. Now we're going to put the eyes. And it's ready.
Maybe a little bit of varnish later on the...
Yeah, of course.
Whipping.
We have to do that.
Well, there it is. Tom's carpet pike fly. What I like about this fly is it's got a beautiful bait fish silhouette, nice bait fish profile. Of course, in the water it will pulse. It's got a little bit of flash to bring it alive. And it's got that classic pike colour combination, white with the red bleeding head. Catches pike all over the world. It's got the eyes for targets. Very, very easy fly to tie, but I've no doubt it's a pike catcher, and we're going to put that to the test in the morning, because what we're going to do now is go back to our hotel, which is about 1 kilometre up the road from here, get a good night's sleep, and then come back with Tom's carpet fly, and maybe 1 or 2 others that I've knocked up, and we're going to see if we can catch a pike on them. And here we are, refreshed after a good night's sleep, ready to start fishing. And what an interesting assortment of craft we've got here this morning. I'm torn, actually, between going out in the old float plane there and maybe going in this traditional Polish coffin. So I think we're opting for the coffin. What I am hoping, of course, is that they don't douse me in petrol and set fire to me as we set off across the lake, but I'm sure they won't. This is, in fact, a traditional Polish rowing boat. Well, Tom's taking his life into his hands today. I'm doing the rowing because he's got a very bad back. So we could end up anywhere here, Tom. Is that all right there, Tom?
Yeah, this is good place.
Okay. How deep is it here, Tom?
On the left side, it goes to 3 meters, something like this. On the right side, there is a drop-off.
Are you using a sink tip or a floater, Tom?
Right now, floating.
Well, that fly looks good, but they don't like it. I think the pike could be down... Oh, I've got the
Snag.
tree.
But they are there.
Yeah, yeah. They always lie around that tree, do they? Just bring it across the cover, you know.
That's right, that's right. Snack.
Well, it's been a difficult morning so far. We've been fishing for about 2 hours and we haven't caught a pike yet, although Tom's had a couple of very small touches that could have been pike. Maybe they were perch, we'll never know. But what we've been doing is fishing around the shallow margins of the lake, just trying to catch some of the smaller pike in here. It hasn't really worked, but that's pike fishing, you know. Sometimes you can come on the lake and they're really hot, they'll jump on anything, and other times you've got to work that bit harder. What we're doing now is trying some of the drop-off areas. For instance, in this bay, you've got beautiful shallow water into the lily pads over to my right, and then gradually the water slopes away as it comes out of the bay, and that's the sort of area that can hold pike. And I feel at the moment what we need to do is to find the area that the pike are holding in, the right depth contour. I think once we've found that, we'll start to get a few fish. Let's hope so anyway.
What do you think about the changing position?
Yeah, we could do.
Okay.
Do you want me to try popper here first?
Yeah, sure. Mi? Strasznie się cieszę, że złowiłeś. Damian had a few Caribbean carps.
What, on the fly?
No, from the bottom. Everybody gets crazy because of this no fishing fish. That's all. I'm going home.
Right, desperation tactics now, folks.
Grenades.
In my eagerness to get a bite, I'm going to resort to the big stuff. Because, Tom, we haven't touched a fish, so now we have to try everything. And if I don't catch them with this, I'll knock them out.
It's sinking.
Yeah, it's sinking. Well, we've not done so well, really. We haven't actually caught a pike at all, even though we've thrashed the water to a foam. So now, in desperation, I've gone onto the spinner. I've got a couple of spinning rods with me, one light spinning rod to use spinner baits, and another heavier rod for jerk baits and big lures. I'm going to try and troll them out. I'm going to scrape the bottom and do whatever I've got to do. I think, looking at the water, there's a lot of algal bloom here. The water's very, very green, and I think the visibility is maybe 18 inches, so it's very difficult for the pike, I think, to see the lure or the fly. And they're certainly in a very, very dour mood here. We're struggling, and I'll admit it. Just trying to search out the fish on the drop-off now. Maybe in about 5 metres of water, and I'm going down for them. Well, this has been one of those days when fate dons a pair of hobnail boots, takes a blooming good run up and hoofs you so squarely in the plums that you don't sit down for a week. It's been really, really difficult, actually, and we've tried everything. Of course, we started off fly fishing and we absolutely raked the water to no effect, and I decided it would be a good idea to try with lures. So I got out things like spinner baits, big jerk baits, all the kind of pike lures that work really well on this type of water, and I didn't get a touch, and neither did Tom. I feel really sorry for Tom, actually, because it's obviously a really, really nice lake, and I'm sure he was hoping that we'd catch a lot of fish, but it just hasn't happened. Why? Well, I don't know, actually, to be honest. Maybe it's because there's a lot of algae in the water. the visibility is very, very low, maybe down to about 18 inches to 2 feet. And also when you get a lot of algae in the water, the pike don't like it, it clogs up their gills. And I think maybe they're just lying dormant, but whatever it is, we couldn't touch one today, and it's really difficult to know what to do because we're here in a different country. I don't know anything about this place. So I think I'm probably going to have a bit of a chat with Tom, and maybe we'll talk about tactics for tomorrow, lick our wounds a bit, and we'll see what we can sort out. Well, here we are. It's dawn, and we've made the early start. We're about to set out on the lake. We're going to try some more fly fishing and spinning for the pike in the hope that, well, maybe we missed the feeding time yesterday. If that doesn't work, then we're going to go fishing for some of the other fish in the lake. There are some crucian carp, possibly hybridised with the other carp in the lake, but any road up, we're going to try and catch those. And whatever else is out there, basically, we're going to try some coarse fishing. In order to do that, we're going to have to cobble together some kit because we haven't brought the right stuff with us, but we'll manage somehow. Well, I've got something on here. It's not a pike. Oh, it's come off. It was only a little perch, but it was the first bite I've had in about 10 hours fishing, so that was good.
This one is bigger.
A little bit bigger, yeah. Well done, Tom. I still haven't caught anything, so I'm going to change tactics and try to catch some crucian carp. But to do this, I need a different rig, so I'm off to the local tackle shop. Well, as luck would have it, the fishing may be pretty desperate, but here we are in a remote Polish town, and just look at this. How you doing? OK, what would you like?
2 hamburgers.
No, I think 018's about right, actually.
And something for
the hookling.
the hooking, yeah.
Well, here we are. The answer to our dilemma lies in another foreign tackle shop. Now, this is the first fishing tackle shop I've been to in Poland, and I've got to say, it's very good, actually. There's a really good selection of tackle here. And I've come here specifically to buy some stuff for fishing for the crucian carp in the lake. That's what I'm going to do this afternoon, but of course I need the kit. So what have I bought? Well, all sorts, actually. I've got a very nice selection of floats here. I've bought some line. I've bought myself a small reel, some ground bait, some sweet corn and worms for bait, and I've also got stuff like hooks and shots. So altogether, everything I've needed has been here, and I'll tell you what, not only is it a good selection, but check this out, we got all of this lot for less than 50 quid. How good is that? Well, just look at this. It's absolutely beautiful here. I found a gorgeous swim here by the lily pads. I've got the tackle I bought at the shop, of course. I've mixed up some nice ground bait. And what I'm going to do is just sit here with the float nice and quietly, put in the odd bit of ground bait, and hopefully I might even catch a few fish. But I'll tell you what, even if I don't, this is an absolutely idyllic spot. It's beautiful. There's some bubbles behind the float. Do you see them then? Unfortunately, the coffin ships a bit of water, so I have to bail it out periodically. Otherwise, we're going down, Captain. I'm really desperate now to catch a fish, not only for myself, but also for Tom, who's tried really hard. And I'm just hoping if we can catch 1 or maybe 2 carp, that would be a real result. Well, I don't think I've ever fished anywhere that looks so nice but is so frustrating. It's been desperate, really. It's probably the politest way I can put it. We came out this morning, fished for the pike. Of course, we didn't get any. We went up the tackle shop. And I really thought that maybe if we fished among these lily pads, we might get a nice crucian carp. But I've sat here for, I think, about 4 hours, and I honestly haven't had a bite. I've tried fishing in maybe 2 or 3 different places, 3 I think, starting off on the edge of the pads, then moving into the corner, just trying a little gap here in the pads. I thought that might produce something, But no, I haven't had a bite. And I think the only thing left to do now, I've got 1 day left and I'm going to gamble. I know there's some reasonable sized carp in this lake. And as luck would have it, I've put a bit of carp kit in. I haven't got all my carp gear, but I've got some. So what I'm going to do tomorrow is I'm going to sit it out and hope that I catch a decent sized carp. And I think, to be honest, that's all I can do. It's the last day now, and as I said, I've decided to come carp fishing today. Over the last couple of days, I've had a good look at the lake, and the only place that I've seen carp show with any consistency is on the reed bed across from this platform. It's about 80 to 90 yards away. There's been 1 or 2 carp showing in the reeds. I've actually seen the stems of the reeds knocking. What I've done is rowed 2 baits across to the reed bed, literally dropped them in off the boat and thrown handfuls of boilies round them. I've got as tight to the cover as I possibly can, just to get a bite. This is a waiting game now. I've laid the trap and I've basically got to live with it. Sit here and hope that one of these alarms goes off. Now, when you go carp fishing overseas, it's not always possible to take all the kit that you would take, let's say, on a trip to France, where you can load everything into a van or into a car. When you come into somewhere like this, or maybe somewhere else in Eastern Europe, perhaps you're going to Canada or Australia, in other words, carp fishing further afield, then you've really got to think hard about what you take, because you can only get limited kit on a plane. So what I've had to do on this trip is literally pare everything down, but I think I've just about got it right. The rods are actually 4-piece carp rods. It's a Journeyman bait rod, and it's in 4 3-foot sections, so it literally packs down into a little tube about this big, which means you can get it on the plane easily. So I've got a pair of those rods. They're 3-pound test curve, just perfect for all sorts of carp fishing, even on big waters. The landing net handle's a telescopic one. The net folds down inside the same tube, so that takes care of the rods and the landing net. Couple of old bait runners with me as well. Not too worried if those get nicked. I've had them a few years. I've opted for braided line here in this swim because I'm fishing very tight to the cover, and I'm fishing a style we call locked up. I've got a couple of alarms, some bank sticks, and then just about everything else goes inside this carry-all. Now this holds rig bits, baiting needles, catapult, and then a bit of bait as well. And to be honest, the best bait to bring with you, obviously you have to check airport regulations, is to bring shelf life boilies, which these are. And then, to be honest, the rest of the kit, it all fits inside this holdall and a short tube. The indicators, a few rig bits, baiting needles, catapults, and that's it. And you never know, you might only get a few hours fishing in on a family holiday or something, but it could just turn up the fish of a lifetime. Well, now this is the desperate for a bite department. It's just horrendous. This is my mate Gaz, and he's working on the crew. He's volunteered to row me around the lake in just a tactic to try and get a bite off anything. I've sat in those reeds all day long, and typical of our luck on this trip, the weather's changed. It's gone much colder, the wind's changed direction. The reeds haven't moved all day. The fish, and there weren't many there in the first place, but those that were there have moved out into deeper water, I'm sure of that. And now we're down to the last hour, and we are desperate to catch anything. It's just been so difficult, this trip, and so frustrating. I think if I'd had my feeder fishing kit here, I might have been able to winkle a few fish out, but there you go, you can't bring everything. And I don't know why we're not catching anything. Things are very difficult in Poland, you know. As Tom said, there are probably only 3 or 4 lakes in this country where the fish aren't taken out for food, and this is one of them. And yet the fishing here is really hard at the moment, and I don't know why. I've kind of gone beyond caring, really, but We're giving it our last best shot. And, well, my morale is so low, it's... If we caught anything, that would be a result. But I can't see it, I'll be honest. Fish! I've got something on, I don't believe it. Crikey! That is just unbelievable, isn't it, eh? How about that? Oh my God, look. It's the tiniest pike in the world. But I love you. Oh, you're so beautiful. Mwah, baby. Oh, look at that. Hee-hee. Well, that's not the biggest pike I've ever caught, but let me tell you, after 3 days of having certain parts of my nether regions hammered flat by fate and the gods, that is very, very welcome. I am so pleased to catch this little pike. It's been an interesting trip to Poland. It's a very unusual country, quite unlike any other country that I've been to. It's going through a lot of changes at the moment. We've just joined the EEC, and it'll be interesting to see how that changes the shape of fishing over here. Let's just slip this little pike back. Oh. And you never know, as Poland becomes more prosperous, things are bound to change. People will fish more for sport and less for food. And yeah, it's been an interesting trip. Even though I didn't have much luck, Poland's waters boast many different varieties of fish. I made my own travel arrangements, but an alternative tour operator is Anya's Poland Travel Agency. British Airways and LOT Polish Airlines offer daily flights to Poland from Heathrow to Warsaw. One thing that I have learned is that the more research you can put into your trips, the better it is. Certainly if I came here again, I'd definitely bring feeder fishing kit to this lake. It just goes to show that the more information you can find out before you go, the better the results are going to be. But I've got to tell you, I've caught one. Here we are in Sweden, famous of course not just for ABBA, Bjorn Borg, Volvo cars and dodgy film tracks on even dodgier films, but also for comedy road signs. Now the reason that we've come here is absolutely none of these. We've come here for the pike fishing, and we've just arrived in Stockholm South Airport. We're on the main road now, from there to a town called Västervik, which you'll find on the Baltic Sea, right down in the southeast part of Sweden. It's a fantastic place. I've been there many, many times, and let me tell you, whenever I make this journey, I always call off here at a place called the Krog, where they serve some of the best French hot dogs in the world. They really are lovely. The flight couldn't be any easier. If you fly from one of the London airports, usually Stansted, you'll get here to Stockholm South Airport, Skavsta, in about 2.5 hours. You pick up your hire car and you're down here within about 2 to 2.5 hours. Well, it's a beautiful morning down here at Västervik. It's sunny, warm. I've had my breakfast, just having a last coffee before I go out fishing. This is the accommodation. It's self-catering, but of the very highest standard. Inside these chalets, which can accommodate a different number of people according, obviously, to the number of bedrooms, you've got loads of options. You'll find the best facilities, things like microwave ovens, good cookers. You've even got a flat-screen telly. So this is the height of luxury, folks. And you can sit out here, you can eat and drink on this little patio area with the Baltic Sea behind you. Now, we're actually in an archipelago, so it's very sheltered. There are lots of islands and trees out there. And as far as the fishing's concerned, well, you've got a couple of options, really. You can either go guided, or if you want to, you can hire a boat and go out on your own. Now, the boats are equipped with good engines, you get fish finders, you get maps. So if there's a group of you that literally want to do your own thing and get away from it all, this is the place to lose yourself in. And on a day like this, it's fantastic. Well, here we are. This is the tackle shop in the town. It's run by Michael, and he's always full of good advice. And in fact, there's a very good range of local fishing lures in here. All of these patterns will work here in the waters on the Baltic, and it is absolutely unknown for me to walk out of a fishing tackle shop without buying at least one.
Yours.
Great.
Thank you.
Taxi Mika.
Okay.
This is Uno's Tower. You'll find it in the middle of Vastavik, near to the town museum, and from up here you've got a fantastic view of the whole area. In front of me you come to the open sea, but inside you've got this huge network of bays and side bays going all the way down to the main fishing area behind me. Now, I'm going to be meeting Anders Forsberg, who's going to be guiding me for the next few days, somewhere over there, which is the marina. You know, when you go fishing all over the world, as I do, you often get to find out the men from the boys by looking at the quality of the boat. Now, to my way of thinking, this is the perfect pike fishing boat. Everything has its place. Of course, you've got a big, powerful engine for reaching some of those inaccessible spots where the pike haven't been heavily fished for. You've also got a small electric outboard for manoeuvring quietly between spots, just little short journeys when you don't want to disturb fish. At the front of the boat, we've got a nice casting platform so fly fishermen can cast comfortably and cover a lot of water. And then, of course, you've also got some of the small touches. Look at where the anchor is. It's in a bucket. Although it's a small thing, it enables Anders to put the anchor out quickly and get it in quickly without it getting in a mess and all cluttered. And then, of course, we've got the onboard electronics. Really good fish finder with a temperature gauge and, of course, GPS for manoeuvring out among some of the rocky shoals and reefs that you'll find out here in the archipelago. So it's an absolutely fantastic pike fishing boat, this.
Balance, Matt, can you move to the other side?
Yeah.
Over there. I can put the rod in. You have to move my box a bit further.
Yeah, no. One of the things I always bring with me on a journey is some flasks, because I love to drink coffee. And in this particular case, I've heard all of Anders' big pike stories so many times that these are vital to keep me awake. Every year that I come, the engine on his boat gets bigger and bigger. And what we're going to do today is we're going to use that speed to go way out into the archipelago to some of the more remote spots where people rarely go fishing.
No tags, nothing?
Not a tap.
Come on, pike.
You've got one. Well done.
Thank you.
Oh, it's not a bad pike, Anders. It's fighting well.
Yeah. You ready?
Yeah. He's really swallowed the jig too.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well done. I knew you'd stroke one out. I've taken the hook out, no problem.
Okay.
Very easy.
Yeah. Nice pike.
There it is.
Yeah.
A pike from the Baltic Sea. Beautiful looking fish too. Let's put this pike back in the water.
Yeah, do so. It's warm in the water.
Because it's very warm, isn't it, in the summer, and we can't keep them out of the water very long. The water does feel quite warm.
Yeah,
actually,
it's warm,
Anders.
yeah. It's 18 degrees. Yeah, thank you very much.
The pike didn't mind. So, just tell us a little bit more about the sea pike, because we're here in brackish water. So what does a pike like that eat?
It's the same fishes as they do in the lake, you know, except for during the springtime they eat a lot of herring.
Right,
That's
so
a
you'll
big
get
difference.
herrings in
Yeah,
this water.
Yeah, they're coming in from the Baltic Sea.
So it's a fantastic
Yeah,
diet.
It is.
Now, just describe to us where we're fishing.
This is a sunken island. The depth under the boat is about 4.5 meters, and we are fishing on the sides.
So we're on
Out-
top of the island,
Yeah.
fishing down the edges.
There's lots of plants on the top of the island, and the pike is standing on the sides, just outside the border to open water.
Right. So in actual fact, the features that we can't see underneath the water
Yeah.
are very important.
It's very important. So you need a fish finder to find the places.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I think that's a very good start. I'll try and catch one myself now if I can find my rod.
Put your rod in the water.
So you think the pike are very densely concentrated?
Very often they are concentrated in smaller groups, and you have to find this place, fish it, then find another place.
So you can have a big area like this,
Yeah.
and all the pike will be in one place.
Not everyone,
Or a
but
few
in
places.
a few places, yes.
So where are you going now? Into the edge?
Now you see, no, here. This is a plateau here,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
on this side of the plateau, there is a nice slope.
Yeah. Yeah, pike. Well, how about that first cast into a new place,
That's good,
and I'm into a pike, which actually took the lure on the way down. I wasn't even retrieving it. I just tried a change of tactics from what we call a bulldog lure, which is a long kind of rubber lure, over to a lure with a much more erratic action, to a jerkbait in fact, and this pike really nailed it. Oh, definitely getting some action here, Anders.
Yeah, I think so.
There he is. Oh, he really nailed that lure too, nailed it good. That's one out. That's got him. And there he is. Really nice fat pike. Pike in this area grow very big actually. It's quite possible to get fish of 15 kilos or more, which is over 30 pounds. You always get a good soaking as well this time of the year. The most important thing about this place is the quality of the sport. The pike are very aggressive, and that makes them really good targets on lures and artificial baits. You can of course fish with dead baits if you want to, kind of English style, but seems a bit pointless when you've got really, really aggressive pike that'll grab lures. I've really got to try harder because I know that he's going to try and give me a right thrashing on the pike catching front. Yeah, well done. Well done. Oh, that's a better pike.
I felt it twice, you know, before.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
No, you didn't believe me.
Well, you said- no, I
you
didn't.
didn't believe me.
When you said I had an attack, I thought you meant a
yeah.
heart attack.
Yeah. Not yet.
That's not bad fish, you know.
It's a small pike, but I think it's in between the grass, you know, in the plants.
Well, I don't think it's that small. Very nice. Oh, it's going under the boat.
Pick it up.
Here she comes.
Nice.
Very nice.
Okay. That was nice. Nice pike. Yeah.
Ooh, that's a nice pike.
Thank you.
Well done.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Lovely pike.
Very nice. Yeah.
Really beautiful pike, actually. Now let's just see if we can pop that single hook out. There you go.
Thank you.
So how easy they are to unhook.
Yeah.
So you had an attack off this pike twice.
That's right.
And
Two
then you
times,
took it.
and then it came. Yeah.
Yeah.
Third time, you
Beautiful.
know.
Really nice looking
Yeah.
fish. It's got a head like a shovel. Look at that.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Really broad,
Yeah.
blunt head. Very wide jaws.
Well, it's time to put it back now.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Well done.
Yeah. Oh, it's an angry pike.
He's not very
Yeah.
happy. But there he is.
It's up to the guests to catch the pike.
Yeah, well, I notice you're trying pretty hard, actually.
Me?
Yeah. It's proper pike fishing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Eh?
Yeah. Oh, that was a nice pike.
About the same size as the other one,
Yeah.
but very
Longer,
strong.
yeah.
That's 3 pike in 4 casts
Yeah.
now. Well, it's really hotting up now. Just as the sun's starting to go down, we're getting a lot of hits. Yeah, it's a nice pike again. This competition is very intense, actually, Anders, because you're trying quite hard, I know you are.
Think so?
Yeah, I do, yeah. You were quiet for a while when you were 1 pike down, and now all of a sudden you've gone cocky again.
There he is.
Well, we've had a fantastic day out on the water. It's been beautiful weather. Tomorrow's meant to be the same. And we've come back here to the camp with the boys to have a barbecue. And you can't find a better way to end a day's fishing than that. The food's great, loads of beer, loads of drinks. And you know, had a bit of a competition with Anders today. And he managed to beat me 6 pike to 4. But he had to stretch himself, I know he did. He was really trying hard. He pretended he wasn't, but he was. And I reckon we'll have another competition tomorrow, and tomorrow's another day. Well, today's absolutely glorious. It's much hotter than yesterday. And we had a very good day yesterday, actually, considering the conditions, because catching pike in bright sunny weather is not always easy, especially here on the Baltic, where the fish do like the wind. But we had a good result, you know. We caught, I think, 10 pike, and I almost kept up with you.
Almost.
Almost,
Yeah.
but not quite. So that was reasonably pleasing as well. I think we missed a couple of big fish yesterday, you know.
I missed one very big one.
Yeah, and I missed a good fish too. So there was a lot happening, and today, well, it's even hotter. So the fishing, I don't think will be too easy today, but we've got a game plan. What we're going to do is, whereas yesterday we were fishing the sunken islands, in the main part of the daytime we're going to go up the edges and fish around the reeds and the rock piles, which is another good place you'll find pike. Not necessarily the biggest pike, but a good place to get some good sport. And then later on we'll drift back out into that slightly deeper water and target a big fish. So I think that's a really good plan, actually. So what sort of kit do you need? Well, certainly for fishing the islands and the reefs, you'll need fairly substantial gear. Now, if you're casting along the edges in the reeds, you can use small jigs, you can use spinners if you want, and small plugs. But for most of us fishing here, we're tending to target the bigger fish, so this is the kind of kit that we carry. There's a couple of rods here that are absolutely ideal. I've got one at 7 feet long, which is rated for lures between 40 and 100 grams. And then I've got a shorter rod at 6 feet, which is rated for up to 150 grams. Now, it's also very important that you use a multiplier reel for this style of fishing, because you can fish the rod in downward sweeps. As far as the line's concerned, I've got 50-pound braid on the lighter rod and 80-pound braid on the heavier rod. Most of the surface lures of any repute will work here at Vestavik, so even if you miss the fish, it's fantastic to see them come up and crash the lure on the top. It's more regular to catch pike just under the surface, so you want some slow sinking jerk baits like these I've got here. This kind of jerk bait, which we call a pig, will draw fish up from very deep water because of its erratic action, but again, it works just under the surface. Now, once you get to the mid-range depths, then these Swedish Zolt lures are absolutely unbeatable. It's very easy to fish. You cast it out, let it sink, just count it down, and then bring it back. And as it comes back, it has a really nice, slow, wobbling retrieve. And then finally, once we get below 6 or 7 metres, we want the big rubber lures. They really excel in this situation. They're heavily weighted, they'll get down quickly, and when you retrieve them with a nice steady crank, you'll keep the lure working down close to the bottom. And with a selection like this, you'd catch an awful lot of pike here in this place. Working a very shallow lure. It goes maybe a foot under the surface. with regular jerks of the rod to make the lure swing, and that's very exciting for a pike to see that. Oh, there's a fish. Oh, what a strike that was. It's come off. Fish is off. This lure is good for attracting them, but not good for hooking them.
It's too fat.
I'll tease them, you cook them. Oh, what a hit. Oh, I missed him.
Yeah, you saw?
Yeah, I saw
Like
him.
it went down again. Just looking at it, just pushing it.
Oh, there's a fish.
Oh!
Just came up from the shallow water.
It's a big one, Matt. It's a good sport.
Yeah, it's lovely to see the attack. That worked out really very, very well.
Ah, fantastic, Matt.
There he is.
Okay, Matt, I'm going to put out the marker because the sunken islands here are so small, you know.
Yes, straight away, Anders.
Yeah, very good, Matt.
First cast.
Told you it's a good place.
And that was on the drop,
Yeah.
not retrieving.
Ah, look at that one.
This fish is pretty angry, actually. Here he comes. Whoa. Nice jumps. Well, he really wanted this lure. I hadn't even started to retrieve it, and the fish nailed it. And there he is. And he's destroyed my lure in the process, completely. Well, I won't be making any more casts with that one, unfortunately, but it's nice to get a bite anyway. You might be wondering what we're doing, but if you hook a pike very deeply, the best thing you can do is sacrifice your hook, cut the hooks, and then you're not going to damage the pike. So it's a very good thing to do. All you lose is a hook. You can easily put another one on. Now this fish will go back well. With any luck. Now, if we'd struggled with trying to take the hooks out in that very awkward position, it would have damaged the pike. So always carry some bolt cutters with you when you're pike fishing on the boat with big lures. And you can just literally snip the points off the hooks and take the lure straight out. If you want to see what these Baltic pike can do, it's just completely destroyed this lure. The pike's ripped the keel weight out of it, ripped apart the rubber, and that lure's now useless. Never mind. Got plenty more in here. Let's have a look. Well, that one's a similar lure. It's a different colour, but we'll give him a go.
Yeah, right. This is a good one, Matt. No, it's not so big. I like these hooks, Matt, because the barbs are so small. This one is going to grow big. Yeah, this is a better pike, Matt. Another nice pike, Matt. Beautiful color, beautiful patterns.
I'm going to have to try really hard to keep up with him, and I don't think I'm going to manage it. But I'm going to try.
Pike. Yeah, pike on.
There you are, sir.
Kept
I
together.
didn't catch this, by the way. Well, now I'm into a pike.
Ah, well done, Matt.
But this one took a big rubber lure. Oh, good work. Oh, yeah. Oh, that was a nice bite. And it's caught me one more pike. Yeah, pike. Well, this is definitely a moonrise pike. There's a big moon coming up over the island behind us, and this is a nice pike that's come on right at the last light. It's been a wonderful day out here. Obligatory last cast or two, and the pike have come on. It's brilliant. You haven't beat me today, Anders, have you?
No.
Let's see if we can get him in the boat. Yes, that's a nice pike. Oh. Well, it's almost dark now, and I can't think of a better way to end this programme than like that. I've had a fantastic time here in Västervik. Remember, if you're going to fly from England, it's 2.5 hours only from Stansted down to Skavsta Airport in South Stockholm. Then you can hire a car, 2.5 hours down here to Västervik. The camp facilities are superb. The guiding, well, that's all right as well, I suppose. And you know, it's been a really good day today because I managed to pip him by one fish. Most European airports have flights to Sweden. I visited Västervik at the end of July, but the prime time for pike is the spring and the autumn. If pike fishing's not your bag, then Sweden is well stocked with perch, sea trout and record-sized salmon. It's a country well worth a visit. I've had a brilliant 2 days. It's been superb fishing in quite difficult fishing conditions, but the weather, well, it's been fantastic. And I'll tell you what, the fishing here is absolutely superb. I've had a ball of a time. It's been fantastic. What a way to finish. Woohoo! Well, it's a typically cold and damp Irish pike morning here in the Borders. There's a bit of rain in the air, there's a good breeze blowing down the lake, and I'm here at Castle Leslie, which you'll find quite near to Armagh, actually, on the southern and northern Irish border. It's a wonderful place, this. Behind me you can see the castle, which is also a hotel. Fabulous place. It's preserved in the Victorian era, and it's got everything, including a load of ghosts, these wonderful lawns and this fantastic lake. Now, I fished here at Castle Leslie about 4 years ago for pike, and the fishing was fantastic, and I've been really looking forward to coming back ever since, and this is my opportunity. Yesterday we came across from Holyhead on the fast ferry into Dublin, got completely lost in the traffic for about 2 hours, but eventually made our way through the other side and got on the road to Armagh and got here to Castle Leslie, which is located in a small village called Glasslough. Well, from what I can remember, most of the pike in Glasslough are concentrated around the edges of the lake, but it's a very deep lake in the middle. It's over 50 feet deep and up to 65 feet deep in places at the top end. I've got with me a small portable echo sounder, which is going to be very useful, not so much in trying to find the pike, but in trying to find the depths that might hold pike. And at this time of year, I'm really looking for water of intermediate depth, around about 12 to 20 feet deep, which I'll probably find along the slopes around the edges of the lake. So I'm just having a little row round at the moment to see if I can find any interesting pike holding features. The boats are provided here at Castle Leslie, so everything's laid on. Well, if you're going to go out pike fishing in a boat, you need to be geared up for it and organised. If your boat's really cluttered and untidy, then if you land a fish, you're going to get into all sorts of trouble. And of course, you need to make sure you've got the right kit with you. First thing to make sure is that you've got an anchor. There is a good anchor on this boat, although I did bring a spare one with me just in case. As far as the rest of the kit goes, well, it's all laid out in the boat around me, really. I've got the landing net made up behind me, ready for action. I've got my dead baits in a small cooler bag over there, just to keep them fresh. In this bucket here, I've got my lures, just hanging around the edges of the bucket so I can get to them fairly quickly. This is an important thing here. If I get a really big pike, you need something soft to protect it from damaging itself in the bottom of the boat. So the unhooking mat is very, very important. The rods are laid out around the side, and then as we go to the back of the boat, you'll notice that I've got an echo sounder, which is powered off a battery I've brought with me. And I also use that battery to run the electric motor. Now that's a real godsend because it means that I can manoeuvre around the lake without making any noise whatsoever. And it's got enough power to make several journeys up and down the lake. certainly if you're going to go anywhere that does boat fishing, just make a check about what sort of kit they've got, whether they've got anchors, whether they've got engines and all that sort of thing before you come out. And it's always wise to have this sort of kit with you if you do any amount of boat fishing, because sooner or later you're going to need it. Well, I'm just looking at a fairly gentle slope out from the bank here now. Got a very heavy mud weight. Should hold the boat nice and steady. Job's a good one. Now I'm sitting at the moment in about 20 feet of water, so I'm going to fish one bait quite close to the boat, the other one a little bit further in up the slope to try and find out what depth the pike are lying at. Well, I've got various dead baits with me. This is one of the best you can use. It's smelt. You can strike the hooks through these very well, and smelt is one of the universal pike baits, it really is. Little Joey mackerel. Beautiful pike bait this, a whole bait, very oily. Just use a pair of scissors to puncture the bait in a few places, just to let some of those oils come out. It doesn't spook pike if you're fishing from a boat, as long as you're quiet and you don't make too much noise by banging your feet or banging the oars. Well, my right-hand float, the left-hand one as you're looking at it now, just plopped under quite violently and then bobbed straight back up. So I'm not sure whether it was the float just pulling under with the swing of the boat or whether a fish has picked up the bait. I think it's a take. It looks like it's sliding away now. Just give it a little bit of slack line. Let's have a look. Yes. Not a big fish, but it's a take. Blimey, that's a really small pike. But it's a good start. I would think a pike of this size would be very vulnerable in a lake like this one. Probably get eaten by a bigger fish. Look at that. A really small pike. Only just about hooked. Right in the front of the mouth. There he is. Oh well, it's a start. It's not one of the Castle Leslie monsters, but pike is pike. I wouldn't expect a really big pike to be in this area with a small one like that. What I think I'm going to do is just work my way down the edge of the lake and try 2 or 3 different spots along the way and see if we can find a group of bigger fish. That feels a bit better. Well, I've literally just dropped into this spot and I've got to take straight away. Come here. Gotcha. Well, that's a bit better. This is one probably of about 7 or possibly 8 pounds. I've only been in this spot about 10 minutes and already this is the second fish. I can't get 2 baits in the water at once now. Another take. It's a really lively fish. There's a lot of pike in this area. Oh, that's a better fish. Talk about pike hotspots. This place is absolutely bandy with them. They're all so lively as well at this time of year, and they do a lot of jumping and tail walking and thrashing. Now let's see if this one, yeah, another really active fish. Not at all happy with me. Similar sized pike. Almost identical, it's amazing. Normally when you're pike fishing, you'll catch fish of all sorts of different sizes, but at the moment, every fish is around about 6 or 7 pounds. Well, this hook's in a very awkward place actually. I'm having to go in through the pike's gill rakers, but I've managed to free it. When you're unhooking pike, the most important thing is not to panic. Because if you panic, you'll make mistakes and you won't unhook the pike any quicker. Just take your time and work as quickly as you can and delicately to avoid damaging the pike. Very nice. Now imagine what a 20-pounder would be like after a fight like that. What a fight. Well, the fishing so far has been really, really good. I'm just keeping an eye on my other float now because sometimes they disappear simultaneously. That one's all right. The fishing's been really, really good so far. I've had quite a lot of fish, Nothing really big yet, but really, really good sport. And what I've found is the fish are hanging around just on this slope. And I've got a feeling they're moving in and out of this area, patrolling up and down, looking for food. And I literally haven't moved for about an hour. I've had about 7 takes off this spot. So I'm going to sit it out for a bit longer because you never know, a big old girl might come along. If that doesn't work, I'm going to try a different place. Now, I first fished here about 4 years ago for pike, and I've been dying to get back here ever since. This, of course, is my excuse, because to be able to fish on the lake here, you've got to be a resident of the hotel. But believe me, if you're into short breaks and you don't mind spending a few bob, then Castle Leslie and its pike fishing is one of the best attractions for fishermen in Europe. It's a wonderful place, Castle Leslie, actually. It's preserved as a hotel in its original state, very much in the Victorian era, and it's got everything, including wonderful furnishings, great food, and a few ghosts as well. It's also got these sweeping lawns which give way to this lake. It's the perfect place if you like your pike fishing. Well, I'm pretty sure this is a take on the near float. The float's just sat up and it's drifting out slightly. I'm going to wind down and have a look just in case. Yes, fish there. Oh, that was a very, very subtle take. It pays to investigate everything with pike, because if you leave a take too long, the fish can spit the bait out. I've lost that fish, which happens sometimes through striking fairly early, but it's not a problem I'm worried about. If it's a really big pike, 9 times out of 10 it'll be well hooked. If it's a smaller fish, you'll lose the odd one. But I like to strike pike fairly early, after between 3 and 5 seconds of noticing the take. I don't like to leave them too long. Could be a lot of prey fish in this area. There's certainly a lot of pike here, and this is not unusual, you know, to find that a lot of the pike in the lake are all in one place. I've found this on British waters and Irish waters. It's a seasonal thing, and this is clearly a real hot spot for pike. Maybe there's a shoal of bream or rudd or roach here, but it's the kind of place where you can sit all day and wait for the pike to come to you. They're certainly not far away. This is the time of the evening now when the bigger fish tend to feed. I've dropped back into the area where I was catching all the fish before. Nothing so far. If I don't get one tonight, I think tomorrow maybe I'll try some slightly different tactics, because I'm happy with the number of pike that I've caught. It's been superb, but the odd bigger fish would be really nice now. And I'm sure that the fish are in this lake. Well, that looks like the final action of the evening. The rain's starting to set in and it's going really nasty now. So I think what I'll do is put this fish back and enjoy a fabulous dinner in the castle and see you again in the morning. Well, today I'm going to use the same tactics on one rod that I was using yesterday, with a dead bait on the bottom. And then I'm also going to try some slightly different tactics. Just to recap, the baits that I was using yesterday were mackerel and smelt, fished hard on the bottom. Now, these are 2 classic pike baits. You can buy them in most fishing tackle shops, but today I'm also going to use a couple of different baits. Over here, I've got roach, which I'm going to try suspending off the bottom, and I've also got pollen, which are a beautiful bait. They're actually naturally buoyant, so they'll pop up a couple of feet off the deck and they'll be more visible to pike. So I'm hoping that'll bring me some success. How are they fished? Well, this is the first rig that I used, and very, very simple rig really. You've got a wire trace at the bottom with 2 trebles spaced about 3.5 to 4 inches apart. We move up the trace, which is 30 pounds wire, and you'll see that I've got a 3SS G-shot pinched onto the top of the trace to provide the weight to take the bait down and hold it on the bottom. Then we've got a swivel, the line, which in this case is braid, and then I've got a bead, the float, then I've got another bead. On this part of the line, I've tied on a stop knot. You can slide that knot up and down the line to fix the depth that the float stops at. Now, in this particular case, I've got this set at about 10 or 12 feet at the moment. It's very important, actually, that you fish with a stop knot no more than about 2 feet deeper than the swim. If you don't, a pike can pick up the bait and you won't even know that you've got a take because the float can drift around without registering a bite. You want it around about 18 inches to 2 feet deeper than the swim that you're fishing. So that's the first rig I'm going to use, but the other rig is a drifter float rig. Basically the same thing, same arrangement, but this time the float is a vane type float, and the idea is that this large vane acts like a sail, so you can cover a lot of water. It's a very, very good method. And the idea with this is to fish it probably between 2 and 4 feet off the bottom and cover the water. I'm pretty sure that the pike will come up for suspended dead baits. So how do you hook the dead baits on? Take your bait, just nick the barbed point into the tail root of the fish, and then take the barbed point on your lower hook and nick that underneath the skin as well. For the drifter float, I'm going to hook the rope slightly differently, and that involves putting one hook into the dorsal of the bait and then the other hook just into the pectoral fin, so the bait will sit horizontally in the water in a natural manner. And there's your rig. To work the drifter effectively, you must use a floating line. This is 30-pound fluorescent grunt braid. It's very good actually because of the bright colour of the braid. I can see where the line is and whether it's going to tangle around the float. Very, very good idea to use braid when you drifter float fishing. This is a great place to see the float at work. I've got a nice constant breeze coming from behind me. You can use drifter floats off the bank or from a boat, and the idea is that they enable you to cover a lot of water, way beyond casting range. Once you've got it set up properly and you've got it drifting, then you can stop the float occasionally, or if you want to, just pull a little bit of line off the reel, pay out maybe a metre, let it drift, stop, then pay out another metre, and you can meticulously work an area covering pike that may ordinarily be lethargic and not come within the range of your bait. But of course, with this technique, rather than waiting for the pike to come to you, you're taking your bait to the pike, and it often picks you up those bonus fish that you wouldn't have caught on a static bait. Well, I literally just picked up the rod to recast the bait, and I think a pike must have grabbed it as I was winding in. It's hooked right on the outside edge of his jaw. Oh well, first of the day. There's a fish there. A bit more weighty. Hey, I knew it was coming. That's quite a fat pike, I reckon. He's eaten a couple of roach recently. Well, the drifter float's gone. Yeah, there's a fish there. At least it shows that the method works. You'll notice with the drifter float I'm using a very long trace. Some people like to use what's called an up trace above the main trace, but I prefer just to use a longer main trace. And it's just to stop the line getting bitten through by the pike. Making a right pig's ear of this one. It's to stop the line getting bitten through by the pike as it attacks the bait, which occasionally happens, so use either an up trace or a long trace. There he goes. Another thing I've done since yesterday is shorten the distance between my trebles slightly, because I noticed that the fish were really swallowing the bait. And I don't want a deep hook pike, so I've dropped the gap down to about 3 inches, and it's definitely working. I'm hooking them all in the jaw now. It's a beautiful fish, isn't it? Fantastic fish the pike is. Beautiful colours. That water's got a real chill to it today. The weather's definitely turning. Winter's not far away. One of the things that really puzzles me about this place is the lack of action I've had on lures. Now, yesterday I tried lots of different types of lures, from basic spoons and spinners through to jigs, big rubber baits, jerk baits, the whole gambit, and I could not get a single bite on a lure. And that's very strange, because there's clearly a lot of pike in the water, and when I came here a few years ago I caught very well on lures. I'm trying them again today, and I don't expect to catch much, but here's one interesting thing. If you're static dead baiting around a boat, sometimes if you fish with lures around the boat, even if you don't catch anything on the lures, quite often what happens is it wakes the fish up and you'll get takes on your dead baits. It's something I've noticed several times in the past, and it's a little tip that's well worth trying out. Really acrobatic fish, aren't they? Nice Irish pike. Well, would you believe it? I've actually hooked one on a lure. I really wanted that. Oh, look at that. Brilliant. It's a very, very subtle take. Well, the shallow water's over there. It's about 2 or 3 feet deep on that plateau. So this is the kind of gully or edge that big pike will run along, and really trying to get pike that might be patrolling along it. We're getting towards evening now. It's about 5 o'clock. Probably about an hour and a half of daylight left, which is a good time to catch a big pike. This pike is actually blind in one eye. Well, that one's a bit better, around about 10 pounds. Nice fish. Oh, I've got to take on my other rod as well now. This is ridiculous. They all come at once. It's like buses. Right, that's that one dealt with. Oh, this one's trying to come into the boat. Well, there you go. Well, my 2 days have come to an end and I'm absolutely gutted. It's a beautiful evening. Time has just flown by here at Castle Leslie. And of course, I've caught so many pike. I've had over 30 fish in 2 days, and it's been action all the way. It's been fireworks. There's been fish tail walking, cavorting around the boat, charging the boat. It's been absolutely madness. Admittedly, I didn't catch a really, really big pike, not as big as the fish I've caught in the past, but you know, it's a big lake this, it's very deep. And although there's no question in my mind that maybe the average size of the pike here isn't as big as it was a few years ago, who knows, in water this deep and this big, there might still be 1 or 2 real monsters out here waiting to be caught. I took a fast ferry from Holyhead to Dublin and drove north towards Armagh. Make sure you take the right equipment with you. However, you can buy suitable fishing baits from most good tackle shops. Check before you travel which fishing permits you're going to need. If you really enjoy your pike fishing and you're looking for a top-class luxury place to stay and come and fish, then you can't beat Castle Leslie. It really is a wonderful place. And as for the lake, well, on a night like this, I really don't want to leave. Well, if you've been watching the series so far, you'll know that I've been travelling to faraway places on the continent in search of fishing adventures. but this time I've come much closer to home. This is the Lake District in the north of England, and it's a place that's characterised by fantastic scenery like this and very unpredictable weather, which we're probably going to find out about. Now, the Lake District is particularly famous for fishing. There's some very good game fishing here with sea trout and salmon, but I've come here in the autumn to fish for pike. Now, one of the things about the Lake District is that these are big, wild, deep waters, and if you're fishing here for the first time, then the chances are that you're going to need a fishing guide, and for this programme, I've picked two real characters. I had a 4-hour drive from the Midlands to the Lake District, one of England's national parks. This is where you'll find superb lakes, including Lake Windermere and Derwent Water. Lake Windermere is 10.5 miles long and 219 feet deep, making it England's largest lake. Well, now it's time to introduce you to one of angling's great characters, the effervescent Gordon Burton Esquire. The Piking Pirate, of course, is one of his nicknames. Gordy, we've come here today to Windermere. Just tell me a little bit about your history with the place.
It seems amazing, Matt, that I bypassed this place for nearly 25 years. All of a sudden, I just heard rumours Windermere producing. I came on. Lo and behold, first day on the place, £20, and from then on, it's big fish been coming all the time.
The results on Windermere over the years that you've had have been absolutely fantastic. How does Windermere compare now to how it did in the early days when you first started?
Well, they brought out bait regulations. You can't use live baits, you can't use freshwater dead baits, so I can't really say if it is as good as what it was a few years ago, simply because of these bait restrictions.
But suffice to say, there are a lot of big fish here.
Oh, there's a lot of big fish in here. This is the only water I know that I can come on and expect to catch £20 pike every time I come. It's a terrific place. Big trout as well, huge ferox.
How do you think we should approach the fishing for the next day or so?
Our tactic should be put a few dead baits out and rake the area with jerk baits, bulldogs, deep diving crankbaits. If failing that, then I troll some of the more noted drop-offs where I've caught so many big fish in the past. Hopefully, will bring us a big fish or two. Right, let's get some baits in, Matt, quick. And of all the baits that I use on Windermere, I suppose I'd pick this above all, I think. Headless mackerel is a truly amazing bait.
What have you got in that jar, Gord?
There's probably a little bit of crushed up sardine, pilchard oil. I've just basically throw anything into it. And then just basically a few squeezes into the bait.
Nice oil slick behind your bait, anyway.
Yeah.
What depth are we in here, Gord? 20-odd foot?
About 18 foot, something like that.
Good fish, Gord.
Yeah. We're going to be in a bit of a position here. This could be a big, big fish.
That's a good start, Gord.
Whoa, yeah.
Let me move some of these rods for you.
I think it's going round that way.
Oh, very nice. Hey, that's not a bad fish, Gord.
Yeah. Nice fish, mate. It's not one of the super tankers, but it's still
It's a lovely
nice
start,
fish.
though.
And,
Good double.
yeah.
You OK?
I will be in a second, mate, yeah.
Good lad.
Nice double hat.
Very wide fish, isn't it?
Beautiful
Across
solid.
its back. Beautiful.
Nice solid fish, that, mate, grand.
Great start, Gordy.
Well, that was quick, that, wasn't it?
Yeah, very quick. We've only been on Windermere now for about 10 minutes. And I looked to the left, I saw Gord's float, and then it just disappeared. That's it, Gordy. Well done, son. Well, we've been here for a couple of hours now, and Gordy's had a very good early result, but nothing else since. And we're thinking a change of tactics might be in order. What do you reckon, Gord?
Yeah, we're going to troll the hump at the top of the lake out from the river mouth. It's worth the shot.
Right, I'll switch the engine on, we'll pull the anchors, yeah?
Yeah. Take us further out this way, Matt.
trying to follow certain contours on the Echo Sounder at the moment. These pike love to hold in certain depths and around cover. And Gord knows where one or two of those little places are that it takes a lifetime to find. And when there's a big southwesterly wind blowing down like this, although it's a bit rough and uncomfortable, it's a very good place to be. So we're going to brave it out and see if we can pull up a big pike from here. You definitely had a fish following then, didn't you?
Yeah, it tried to grab it, flared its gills and grabbed, but missed.
Well, what an evening it's turned out to be, and what an afternoon. We did 2 or 3 hours trolling down at the other end of the lake, down near Ambleside, and it didn't work, unfortunately. The weather was pretty wild down there, but it is a good tactic, and sometimes it does produce fish on here. And we've come now back up towards Cragwood House Hotel to do a little bit of fishing with baits, just to escape from the weather, but we can't. It's absolutely pouring down. And you know, all of you continental anglers watching this from mainland Europe, with your fabulous autumn sunshine and your clear blue skies, I'll tell you this, unless you come to the English Lake District, you just don't know what you're missing, do you, Gord?
Well, it'll certainly give them a good change, Matt.
It will. It's most invigorating out here. It's blowing a gale, it's pouring with rain, we haven't caught anything for hours, but we love it. And I'll tell you something else as well, we'll be back here again in the morning. Ooh, the weather's been bad today, hasn't it, eh?
Terrible, yeah.
That's part of fishing in the Lake District, I suppose, son.
It's the worst part of it.
I stayed at Armathwaite Hall Hotel, who supplied me with bed and breakfast during my stay. There are a range of hotels in the area, all of which offer similar deals. Alternative hotels can be sourced through the local tourist board or through the internet.
Windermere is worth coming to visit from the continent because it's a terrific pike water where it's possible that you could catch 20 pike in the next fortnight and 10 of them could be 20-pounders. And not only that, you've got all the lovely area around it, you know, you've got the history of the Lake District. You can take cruises around all these lakes. There's just so much beauty. I love all the scenery.
Well, this is our second day on Windermere. We've tried a couple of hours dead baiting off that plateau to no avail. I had one drop bait. I saw some teeth marks in one of my baits actually, but it may have been a trout or even an eel. We're trolling quite deep here. We're in about 30 to 40 feet of water, and we're deliberately using lures that will fish down very near to the bottom. We're fishing perhaps 30, 40 or even 50 yards behind the boat with deep diving plugs. Gordy's got on a Buka Depth Raider plug, and I've gone a Man's 25. So we're combing the depths now. We think the pike are lying down there, sulking at the moment. They're not hard on the feed. And with this tactic of covering the water, we might just pick up a bonus fish. It's tough at the moment. We haven't given up hope though.
Awful lot of big fish been caught just here. Awful lot. Yes, yeah. Yes.
You in?
Good fish, Matt. It's coming towards me, but it's a good one.
That's a proper and good. Oh, yeah, very nice.
Oh, yeah.
Well done, mate. You want me to grab it?
Yeah, you can. Come in, I think I thought he was going to jump then. Gotcha.
There you are, mate. That's a nice upper double. Well done, Gordy. As you can see by the lure hanging out the fish's mouth, we were trolling with big rubber lures behind the boat. And we've got one. Good work, son.
And that fish has taken that lure only 4 or 5 feet down over 30 feet of water. So it's what I like to call a high roller.
Let her go, Gordy. Well done.
Windermere is a very, very good water. When it turns on, it's as good as anywhere.
Oh, hey, that's what you want. Not one of the Windermere monsters, but what a beautiful fish.
Let's hope we can catch its mother. Yeah, great pattern this, Matt. Black and orange. Big jointed crankbait like this works well, especially in these conditions anyway.
Well, this is a bit like buses. You get nothing for ages, and then they all come at once.
It must look like there's a shoal of fish swimming down behind this boat.
Not a big fish, but
Still another fish, mate.
amazing. You can troll here and fish here all day, and then all of a sudden you get that magical hour when they just
turn
come on.
You can see they like big lures, foot long.
Beautiful pike. Gordy's just had another really good hit.
It's a big fish, a big one.
We've got about an hour's fishing left. The weather's been better today. It's
Yeah.
been a bit windy at times, but we've got away with it.
Yeah.
It was awful yesterday, wasn't it?
Terrible.
Well, I've said my goodbyes to Gordy, and I managed to get the boat out on my own, which is a real bonus. And you know, I've really enjoyed the last day and a half. It was great to fish with Gord again, because he's a hell of a character. But he probably knows more about this lake than anyone else I know. And I think, given the conditions, it was tough fishing. We managed to winkle out a few fish in the face of adversity, really. But it's like he said, you know, sometimes you can go out on this water and the next bite might be from a big 20-pounder. You just never know. And a fish like that from a lake like this is worth 10 on a tame fishery, believe me. But the adventure's not over yet, because tomorrow I'm moving up north. I'm going to another Lake District fishery, again fishing for pike with a guy called Eric Hope. Now, the place I'm going to is Derwent Water. I've never been there before, so I'm really looking forward to it. Although, unfortunately, the weather forecast is for gales, so that might be a bit sticky. But you pays your money and you takes your chance up here. Tomorrow's another day. There you go, Eric.
Cheers, Matt.
Well, it's a pretty windy day down here on Derwent Water, which is where we're fishing today. We're actually at the Derwent Water Marina, which is one of the many launch sites that you'll find around the Lake District, which is great if you happen to be a boat owner like myself. There are plenty of good sites to launch your boat and keep it overnight. Absolutely perfect. Of course, if you're fishing here for the first time, then you'll probably want to fish with a guide. And I've got one of the best with me today. His name's Eric Hope, and he's going to guide me around the water on what looks like being fairly interesting on the weather front, I think we could say. Normally, of course, we'd fish in Eric's, but I love fishing in my own boat, so I've conned him into coming on mine.
Okay, clear at the right.
Oh, this is a rough old day.
Even the coots have come in and sheltering.
You're gonna have some fun today, folks.
We will indeed. It must be mad, Hayes.
Hang on a minute. I can't believe that. This was actually your idea. Where do you want to fish from then, Eric?
I know a really nice jetty down in southwest Wales. You see where it's looking really rough off to that far left-hand side?
Yeah.
That's where we're heading.
Do you want to go to the right of the big island?
Yes.
Or... Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we're
that's
going to
fine.
run up the right of Herbert's
That's
Island.
fine, okay.
That's Cat Bells on the right.
Looks like we're on the edge of a slope here. I'll get us into a good depth for these lures.
Right.
Around about 20 feet and try and follow that contour. What lure have you got on now?
I've got a Jake on at the moment. It should run down to probably between 18 and 20 feet. Nearly lost my hat then. The things we do to catch fish. I try and get people to hold on to the rods when they're trolling, but it makes a world
Feel
of
the bite,
difference.
that's everything.
It is, isn't it? The take is everything.
So what's Derwent Water like? It looks about, what, 2.5, 3 miles long or something?
It's about 3.5, and about 1.25 miles wide. It's your typical glacial lake with lots of good features in it. If you look around either side at the mountains and the terrain generally, it gives you some idea of what's likely to be there underneath the water. So you get areas where it's gently sloping, and then you get some big precipices. But it's a nice sized place. You can cover it nicely in a day, but you still feel that there's a chance that there's bits here and there that there could be something spectacular lurking that you haven't had a chance at. I like it. I think it's a very enjoyable lake to fish. It has its days where it's blooming hard work, but if you work it out, you can have some cracking days fishing.
So what about the fish species? There's obviously pike and trout in here. What else is there?
There's also one of these rare Lake District fish in here called the Vendace.
Right.
That lives in here and Bassenthwaite, and that's it. That's one of the reasons that we're not allowed to use freshwater baits in here. because they're trying to protect the indigenous species.
What about the ferox trout? Are they ferox?
Yeah, they're the nice surprises in a day's fishing. You'll be fighting it hard, and suddenly you get it to the boat, and wow, it's a trout! and it's bigger than your average pike in some places. It's surprising how you can ease up on the power when you see something 3 foot long and spotty come by. It's quite entertaining. Isn't that brilliant?
A proper rainbow bridge right the way,
Right across.
halfway across the lake.
Yeah.
We are going through a particularly bad bout of weather at the moment. It's basically gone from bad to shocking, back again, and then at the moment to absolutely hideous. I'm staring at the screen through my sunglasses and droplets of water, desperately trying to discern the numbers in a vain attempt to keep this boat on course after being buffeted by a series of squalls that have sapped my confidence and spirit. But Eric seems to be very confident we're going to catch a fish, and that sort of thing is infectious.
It's only a matter of time.
It's just like rabies, Eric. There's a squall heading right
Here
at
we
us.
go.
You can
This
see
is
it coming down the lake.
3, 2, 1.
This is nuts. I'm actually scared to catch a pike now. This lake now is just spitting its fury at us. This is pure venom, this is.
Ah, but you want to see it when the weather turns rough. That's when it really tests you.
We've caught nothing, but I'll never forget this day because this weather has been as bad as anything I've ever experienced in fresh water. As far as the fishing's concerned, well, it's been appalling really, but fish don't like this weather, you know. It's been so changeable. Anyway, we're going to go back to Armathwaite Hall now, get some dinner, good night's kip, and we're coming back here first thing in the morning for another gutful of this lot. If you're a boat owner like me, having access to marinas like this is a real godsend. This is the perfect place to launch your boat, and there are plenty of places like this dotted around the Lake District. Well, we've anchored up now off a drop-off. The conditions this morning are much better. The wind's a lot gentler. It's not raining at the moment. I think it probably will later, but for the moment, the conditions look pretty good. We're going to try a little bit of static dead baiting. We've done a troll up from the bottom end of the lake, up the edge, followed the contours nicely. No takes on the troll, so we're going to try some static dead baiting, and this is a lovely drop-off actually. We're almost sitting on a corner. We've got shallow water up behind us, gradually sloping down into deeper water over to the right side of the boat, so you've got almost a hollow or a depression, and that's the sort of place that pike really like, so we may be able to ambush one here. Let's see.
You're not going to believe this, but it's the smallest pike I've seen. And we're in, and we've got a fish. Look at the state of that. It's even hooked in the chin. Why on earth does a fish that big take a lure that size? Bye-bye, little fish.
He's on. Look at this.
Oh, dear.
It's a tiny pike.
All we need now is its mother or its grandmother. There, look at that swirl. That's a fish. It's chased it right the way in. Come on, let's have a look at you. A pike. One fish going by. Thank you, fish.
Yes, pike, Eric.
Nice one.
It's not a nice one.
no,
Well, it is a nice one. It's not a massive one, but it's better than we've been having. They like this jerkbait, though, don't they?
They do indeed. The Dutch master, eh?
Yes. This is an unusual type of lure that I got from a guy in Holland who made it himself. And it's type of what we call a jerkbait. It's got no diving vane or built-in action. You have to impart the action by sweeping the rod. And it's fooled a couple of pike now, which is nice.
Look at that. Beautiful. They are lovely. Just pity they're not 20 pound
Yeah.
or thereabouts.
I'll show you the lure.
That is a lovely looking bait, isn't that?
It's a beautiful lure, this.
Superb.
It was handmade by a guy in Holland. It looks like a perch, The colours are fantastic, but the key is in the weighting. What he's done is he's actually drilled out part of the body. He's put weight inside the lure. And what happens is, when you cast this lure in, it's almost neutrally buoyant. It sinks very slowly like this. But when you jerk the rod, it swings like this from side to side, and it looks like an injured or distressed fish. And a lure like this one, which is handmade, will always be better than anything that you can get off a mass production line. When I drop it in the water, just look how slowly it sinks. You can see how he swings there from...
Easy meal.
That's how jerk baits work. You have to tap the rod downwards to make them keel and slide and glide in among the weed beds. To a pike, that's an injured fish.
Yes, we got a fish.
Anyway, at least that's a proper pike. It's taken us over a day and a half to catch it. But well done anyway.
Whee!
Well, it's been a really interesting few days. The pike fishing's been difficult but rewarding. It was great to fish with a couple of old friends again, with Gord first and then with Eric. And although the fishing hasn't been easy, we've had incredible weather, we've had great scenery, we've been well looked after by the people at Cragwood House and at Armathwaite Hall, and I've really enjoyed it. But like all good things, this adventure's come to an end, and it's time to go home.
I've fished on Lake Windermere and Derwentwater, two of England's finest and most beautiful glacial lakes. The Lake District is easily reached by road, rail and by coach. If you haven't fished these lakes before though, I strongly recommend you arrange a guide to go with you.
I'll definitely be back to Derwentwater, and of course there are many more trips to come to Windermere. And you know what? It doesn't matter about the size of the pike that you catch here. If you like wild fishing, you like great weather, atmosphere and terrific scenery, this is definitely the place to be. Well, this time around we're in Holland and we're going to be fishing for a completely new species. We're fishing for zander. It's the autumn. We're in the south of the country and really Holland is the mecca of zander fishing. And for a guide, I've chosen a really busy guy and probably someone who's recognised as the best all-round predator fisherman in Europe as well. And that's Bertus Rosemeyer. So I'm hoping not only will we get good fishing, but also that I'll learn a few new ideas and tricks in the bargain. I'm really looking forward to this one.
I flew from Birmingham International to Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam on KLM Airlines. The flight took just over an hour. I met my fishing guide and we drove south towards the Rhine-Maas Delta, which is a large man-made lake system created to alleviate flooding.
Well, I'm not very good at speaking in Dutch, double Dutch possibly, but I'll give it a go. We're actually here on Lake Volkerak.
Yeah, you're good.
Not a bad effort.
No.
Tell us a little bit about it, Bertus, because it's an amazing place. I mean, there are some huge ships around us. How big is it?
Well, it's about 15 kilometers long and about, well, as you can see now, 1.5 kilometers wide.
Yeah.
It's a former sea arm of the river Rhine in Maas Delta, locked off many years ago. And gradually it was getting more or less fresh. It's brackish now, very much like the Baltic. Zanders here are really big. Going up to about 10 kilos is no problem. Records of 15 kilos have been reported. There is lots of big pike in it, going over 40 pounds. And big perch. So don't be surprised if you pull up a 6-pound perch or so during this day.
Well, I think it's fair to say that this is going to be a real journey of discovery for me. We do a lot of lure fishing for zander over in England, of course, but we're very new to it. And the one thing I'm very interested in is this technique of vertical jig fishing, where the boat's set up on a long drift and we're jig fishing right underneath the boat, literally drifting across the fish and tapping the bottom. So this is going to be a really interesting session for me. One of the things I thought we ought to pick up on first of all, Bertus, is the use of the echo sounder to actually locate the right places.
Well, you can see a lot of fish at the moment at the bottom. A really big fish here. Could be a huge zander.
So you've got basically the wind blowing us this way.
Yeah.
You're using the electric motor to slow the
Slowly
drift.
back troll, yeah.
So you're aiming to go as slowly as possible.
And then especially as the water is really cold, slow can't be slow enough.
So how far do you like to lift the jig off the bottom?
About 25 centimeters.
That's not a big distance, is it?
No.
So you keep it very close.
Yeah, right. And the thing is, if you lower it slow, give a short pull upwards, leave it there for 3 or 4 seconds, then sink it down again very slowly. You will take 100% of your bites
On the drop.
never up, always down.
Well, what we're doing here probably looks really simple, and I suppose it is, but there's a hell of a lot going on that perhaps you don't realise. We're fishing a style called vertical jigging. It's highly specialised, and one of the things that really interests me about this is that in England, for most of our predator fishing, we tend to use 20 or 30 pounds braid, but today we're using 8 and 10 pounds braid. Now, why is that, Bertus?
Well, if you use thicker lines, there is so much pressure on your line that your jig head will be too far away from the boat to control it to the maximum.
So the fine line cuts through that,
Yeah.
and it enables you to fish much tighter to the rod
Yeah.
tip and jig the lure properly. Now, the other interesting thing is the lack of a wire trace. You don't use a wire trace, do you? Now,
No.
why is that?
Well, if you use wire, we simply notice that it will shy off the fish. If you would compete with me, you with the trace and I without the trace, I will catch 40% more. And because you're fishing deeper than most of the pike are standing, the chance of getting connected to a pike is very, very small.
Well, it's a real journey of discovery for me, I can tell you. Let's carry on and do a bit more fishing, eh?
Shall we try it?
Yeah. Bertus is into a fish.
Oh, it's a beautiful fish.
That's the first Dutch zander I've ever seen.
If you put them back as you normally would, quite gentle,
Yeah.
they won't go down. So don't be shocked. It might look a bit cruel, but it's really the only way to do it.
I've got one, Bertus. Not the biggest zander in the water, but it's my first one. Bombing back down. This, in fact, is predator fishing heaven. Another nice fish, Bertus.
What we call a legal fish.
But you can take that one, can you?
If you would.
So when you bring them up, it causes the swim bladder to blow up,
Exactly.
and they won't swim straight back down.
No.
So,
And because you drop them, it scares them off a bit, and then they go straight down.
oh, that's a bit bigger, Bertus.
Sure looks like it.
Yeah, it's very nice fishing with this very thin braid because it gives you perfect contact with the bottom. And you can even feel what type of bottom you're fishing over, and the bite was just a sudden tap then. Not a massive zander, it's not
No,
as big
but
as
it's
the
a nice
one you
fish still.
caught, but it's a nice one. Oh, look at that, that's my first proper Dutch zander, and it's completely swallowed the lure, look at that. Right inside its mouth. Great stuff. Very nice looking fish. Of course, they look exactly the same as they do in England. The colours vary slightly, but not really very much. And like in England, sometimes they really get the lure inside them quite deep. There he goes. Look at those fins bristling with defiance. He looks pretty angry with me, actually, so I'm going to put him back. But this is one of the lucky zander because people do eat these fish. Let's give him a... Definitely works.
Definitely works.
Oh, you're in again. Well done. Yeah, I think that one's breastfeeding on your lure.
For sure.
Yeah. I hooked something.
This is a good fish, Matt.
Yeah, it feels a decent fish. Bertus is into one as well, so we're obviously over a group of them. Ah, now yours is much smaller than mine.
Yeah, well, I caught more.
Oh, very nice. You've definitely got the touch there, mate. That's great.
There seems to be a lot of fish here.
Yeah, there does, doesn't there? Let's just have a look at the jig, Bertus. This is a system that you've come up with, isn't it, where you're using a jig head with a flying treble?
Yeah, well, as you see, we use a snap.
Yeah.
And rigging up in the winter, you need needles to get your stinger through with cold fingers.
Yeah.
Not really a nice thing to do. So we made a concept with simply a lure with a shaft in it. You push through small steel wire, matching to the lure you're using, like this.
That's very clever.
Yeah. We've got hooks with a size on it, which is also matching on the back of the lure. Number 6, number 4, and so on. Which is matching to the jig head. So you can see this hook will come out straight out of this number here. Jig heads we are using is about 14 and 20 grams maximum. So you actually can't go wrong. This is a number 6. I pour it through hole number 6 and you will see that it matches perfectly. You fold the stinger trace over the eye.
And then attach it to your snap. So what we've got is we've got the large single hook here, which is how we fish in England.
Yeah.
But you've got a flying treble hook here, and the wire passes through the body of the bait because there's a slot moulded into it.
Yeah.
Now this stinger's very important, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You will see over the day that about 90% of the fish you catch is on the stinger hook, not on the main hook of the jig head. Zander have a very funny way of hunting. Over the day they mainly bite the fish without eating it. They injure it and pick up the injured fish later on
So
in
the
the evening.
Zander will actually attack a fish,
Yeah.
disable it,
Yeah.
and leave it there until dark, and then it will go and pick it up.
Exactly. They won't escape anymore. So later during the evening you will see that most of the Zanders are really feeding and you will hook them on the main hook.
That's fascinating.
It is.
Got another one in on here, Bertus.
The 7th,
Yeah, got quite a few, yeah.
up to a 30-incher now.
Yeah, I'm working my way up. I'm definitely getting the hang of this now.
Yeah.
Well, not a big fish, but it's really good fun. I'm about to make my salt on the Dutch Zander record. How big is that?
It's over 15 kilos.
15 kilos.
Yeah.
This lure's worked well, actually, hasn't it?
That's great.
It's been very
It
good.
looks very natural.
Yeah. I've had these for ages, you know, and I've tried them a couple of times at home, but I've definitely been fishing them the wrong way.
Maybe you're afraid that there is not enough action in it.
Well, actually, that's true, because I discarded this lure because I didn't think there was enough action in the tail.
Well, more than enough for the Zander, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh, you're right. I mean,
And
there
I-
has been today. Well, Bertus has definitely got a good Zander on here. This one's fighting much, much harder than the others. Oh, well done. Very nice. That's a solid one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's nice.
Now, that's a proper Dutch Zander, that one. Fabulous. Well, it's been a really fantastic day, actually. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. You know, this morning, when we ventured out onto this water, I was thinking, where on earth has Bertus brought me? Surely he's taken the wrong turn and we've ended up on the North Sea. But it's been absolutely brilliant. The fishing was quite hard to start off with because the wind was very strong. The boat was drifting quite quickly. But as the day wore on, our fish tally increased. And I don't know how many Zander we've caught today, but how many do you reckon?
Well, I think 35.
And it's been a real learning curve for me. I've fished all over the world and I love it when I learn something new.
Yeah,
And the good news is we've got another day tomorrow.
Better
and
weather.
Weather sounds like it's going to be
sunshine,
better.
No wind.
Can't be bad, can it, eh? I'm back on Volkrag Lake with Bertus Rosemeyer for day 2 of our Dutch Zander fishing adventure. And what a difference a day makes. Yesterday we fished on something that looked like the North Sea. It was misty all day long. Having said that, we caught so many Zander. We literally caught probably 30 or even 35 fish. But today's all about trying to catch a big fish. We're going to go all out for either a big Zander or maybe a big perch or a big pike. So it looks like we've got the weather for it. Nice sunshine, a good ripple on the water. Conditions really couldn't be better. So hopefully, Bertus,
Now this looks a promising place.
we've got a big underwater hump there.
Yeah. looks like
sea fish marking next to it, yeah.
This is
yeah.
really serious.
Yeah, these are proper big fish.
You see bait fish everywhere.
Yeah.
Like this is most certainly a zander, because if it would be bream, you will see lots of arches all tied together on the bottom.
Yeah, but these are spread
just
out.
solitary fish. We better start jigging here. And then we drift over one side first. Okay, there we are. And this is a ball of bait fish with zander under it, most likely zander.
There's a fish, Bertus.
Fine.
It's not very big, but it's a fish.
Yeah.
Very shy bite.
It was more or less like yesterday, when we were scratching them from the bottom in the beginning.
Yeah.
And later on, we were catching all these fish that easy.
Yeah, let's just hope it goes the same way today, huh?
Yeah, you never know. That would be nice as a pike bait.
It would. That's a real bait fish, that is. I tell you what, probably a big zander might even eat that. It's very small, isn't it? He's really chewed up my jig, look. He won't let go. Don't chew it up.
They're really good.
Let go. Greedy little devil. Look at that. Perfect little zander.
Yeah, they're super beautiful.
How old would that be, do you think?
This is the second year class.
Second year class. Yeah. Look at this, Bertus. There's a scrape here. Something's tried to eat him.
Yeah, most likely pike.
Yeah, but he's had a narrow escape.
Yeah. Not when you're passing over, though.
No, but he'll be all right. I'm going to give him the old backflip treatment now.
And gone.
You got one on, Bertus?
Yeah, small one. Ah, gone. That was really a tiny one.
Oh, it's a snag, is it?
Snag?
Yeah, I thought it was a good fish then. I think they're trolling way too fast, Bertus.
Well,
they won't catch anything at that speed. That's
maybe they're hoping for a marlin or so.
Yeah, that's blue marlin speed, that is. I've just changed my lure over, and I've got myself connected to definitely a better fish this time. Oh, yeah.
Oh, this is a really serious fish, that's for sure.
I hooked it in very deep water, so it's very difficult to know until you get the fish near the surface how big it is. But this one's hanging on a bit. It's good bend in this rod.
This is what you wanted.
The fishing's been really, really slow this morning.